Hello, my name is Aya, and today I'll be answering the research question: Is higher government health spending associated with longer life expectancy? All the data which I'll be using today is from the World Bank, the year 2019. Okay. Why it matters? I chose this topic because life expectancy is one clear measure of a population's well-being, and understanding how public investment affects it can help with important policy decisions for the future. To start off, I'll be looking at two different health system types. So one of them would be through the government and the other would be private. Government is when healthcare is funded for in a country by tax, for example, like the NHS. And private is healthcare funded through the expenses of individuals or insurance. Comparing all countries with both health system types, we can see that they both have a positive relationship between life expectancy and the amount of spending. This suggests that the more spending is made towards health, the higher life expectancy would be. In this slide, we will see the distribution of health system types for all countries, and we can see that the majority of countries have a balanced health system type, meaning that they rely on government and private healthcare. 28% of all countries rely on government and 23.1% of countries rely on private healthcare. We will compare the average life expectancy for all these health system types. So countries where the government mainly runs the health system tend to have the longest life expectancy with an estimated average of 78 years. On the other hand, countries that balance private and public healthcare have a slightly lower life expectancy compared to the government-reliant ones, being around 74 years. Additionally, we can also spot that the countries which have a private-reliant health system have the lowest life expectancy with an average of about 65 years. When comparing private and government-reliant systems, there is about a 13-year difference in average life expectancy, which is a big difference. To be able to understand the cause of deaths, it would give us a clear overview or a better overview as to why this might be the case. We will look into non-communicable diseases, which I'll refer to as NCDs in this presentation. NCDs are illnesses like heart disease, cancer, and diabetes, unlike infectious diseases. They're not contagious, meaning they don't spread from person to person. They tend to be more common as people age and are influenced by lifestyle choices such as diet, exercise, and smoking. I have created a scatter plot using health system types to see the relationship between NCDs, deaths, and life expectancy. As we can see, some countries have low life expectancy and we can notice that most countries here have a private health system type, especially when comparing it to the countries that have balanced and government health system type. Now, you might be thinking how countries with a high life expectancy die from high rates of NCD diseases, and this is simply because the population lives long enough to develop non-communicable diseases, unlike countries with low life expectancy, where people are more likely to die from infectious diseases or preventable causes at a younger age. I will compare three countries which have different health system types in more detail. Australia mainly has a government health system, Greece would be balanced, and Switzerland will be private health system, as we can see from the large pink share on the bar plot. As we can see, Switzerland spends the most with around 9,000 US dollars per capita, and that Australia has less with less than $6,000, making Greece having the least with around 2,000 US dollars per capita. I will also look at the life expectancy and NCD deaths of these three countries. Again, Switzerland has the highest life expectancy, followed by Australia, then Greece. However, they all have a range of an average of 81 to 84 years, which is relatively high and consistent when comparing them to the amount of US dollars they spend per capita. We can see all possible different approaches to health system types, yet all achieve relatively high life expectancy while facing similar health burdens from NCD deaths. We will look at other countries which rely on private health systems that also have a low life expectancy and compare it to Switzerland for further analysis. Mali and Nigeria also have a private health system. However, we can see that they both have a low life expectancy with a substantial difference of 20 years when comparing it with Switzerland. We can also see that the NCD death rates is also very low, which indicates that population in Mali and Nigeria don't live long enough to develop or die from non-communicable diseases. Instead, deaths in these countries are more likely caused by infectious diseases and possibly limited access to services, which leads to their lower life expectancy. I will also compare the health expenditure of these countries in the next slide. I created two separate graphs to be able to compare the difference of the three countries' health spending. This was because Switzerland's very high health spending made it difficult to see the bars for Mali and Nigeria. We can see that Switzerland has 9,000 US dollars per capita, whilst Mali has 25 US dollars and Nigeria has 60 US dollars per capita. This would explain why the life expectancies of Mali and Nigeria are much lower than that. So why would this be the case? Switzerland is a high-income country with a regulated health insurance system that ensures individuals can access high-quality healthcare, even if it's mostly privately financed. The high private share reflects how health services are paid for, which would mainly be through insurance. On the other hand, Mali and Nigeria are low-income countries where private reliance means out-of-pocket payments, and many people simply cannot afford basic health care. Their governments invest very little in health, and as a result, the private sector is often under-regulated and not accessible to the poorest, leading to low life expectancies. Overall, the findings show that government health spending is an important factor in supporting longer life expectancies, especially low-income countries would particularly benefit from increased public investment, as high out-of-pocket costs would make healthcare unaffordable for most of the population. Even in Switzerland, where the system is also private reliant, health insurance reduces the financial burden on individuals. In summary, while the structure of a health system matters, the level of investment and the accessibility of care, especially through public funding, are most consistently associated with longer life expectancy across countries. Thank you for watching.